Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot today. If you're new here, you guys know it. Hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. All right, we're talking a little bit of news. We got Ryan Griffin getting released, saving the Jets $3 million against the salary cap. That is something that I think a lot of us sort of expected, especially with the signing of Uzma and Conklin, and hopefully another one inside of the draft. You know, the room kind of gets a little crowded. Griffin, so long. I would imagine he may have asked for this release, so that way he might be able to have an opportunity to sign with a team before the NFL draft. So good move all around for the New York Jets. And then we find out, I guess a little bit late on my part, Treylon Burks is meeting with the New York Jets. And then we just found out Chris Olave is going to be meeting with the Jets as well. Treylon Burks this past year had 66 receptions, 1,104 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Chris Olave had 65 receptions, 936 yards, and 13 touchdowns. So these guys are both elite wide receivers. I question whether these are selections at number 10, though. I don't get the vibe. Like when you're looking at the top wide receivers, I don't see Chris Olave anywhere close to the top 10, like maybe 17 and below. Treylon Burks, you see kind of sneak up to number 10 and then go as low as like mid-20s or so. So I would envision if the Jets were looking to trade back from number 4, somewhere into the mid-teens, early 20s, these are both players that they could wind up looking for. Or if they are considering trading back into the first round, I think that's really where the value lies in terms of wide receiver. You guys know that. I've been preaching that for a little bit now. So do the Jets go wide receiver at 10? I know a lot of us are kind of thinking, hey, look, the wide receiver position was not solved in free agency. It was not solved via trade, at least not yet. I don't know. It doesn't strike me that they want to take a receiver at number 10. I don't know what it is. It's not like any sort of insider information or anything like that. I just sort of get the vibe that they prefer back end of the first because they have two players in mind, or at least a few players in mind that they would like to hit with 4 and 10. I think that's why you saw Hill get offered the 2 second-round picks and the third-round picks. So I think they're much more likely to trade up in this respect than to draft the receiver at number 10. But who knows? Everyone's receiver rankings are all over the board. I have mine coming out tomorrow. I actually just finished editing the video where I talk about Chris Sims' rankings and how I sort of feel about that. It's odd. It's interesting. All the way around. Scott V says Garrett Wilson is in the mix too. That does not surprise me. I haven't seen the little notification click through on him just yet, but I do think he's absolutely in that as well. Dupracabra says it looks like we're looking for a speedster at wide receiver. Yeah, when you look at how, the whole Tyreek Hill thing, I think this is sort of where you're looking. Chris Olave ran a 4.39, I think. Garrett Wilson, I believe, was 1/100th of a second faster at 1.38. Treylon Burks, I don't remember offhand what he ran. I think it was like a 4.5, so a little bit slower than maybe you would have liked to see there. But overall, I think the metrics on Burks are absolutely awesome. His hands, he's got like 10-inch hands. Guy can catch anything towards him. Angel says, love them, but don't see them as that number 1 receiver. I could see it. I could definitely see it. I could see both of them being wide receiver 1s for sure. It's just a matter of where you want to select them and how you're going to utilize them, because Treylon Burks feels like you would utilize him similarly to like a Deebo Samuel or an A.J. Brown, where Chris Olave feels like it might be similar to like Garrett Wilson, where he's going to be a crisp route runner, try to take advantage of that speed. I don't necessarily see them in the same mold. Noah says, was just watching your DK video. I hope we get this dude, just an outstanding athlete. That guy is absolutely enormous, and I'd have no problem going after DK Metcalf in any capacity. My thought process there is he's more attractive in the event we trade down from 4, maybe offer them a second-round pick to get DK as well as their quarterback. We'll see. We'll see. Dupacabra says, these are smokescreen meetings. Entirely possible. Entirely possible. Nathan says, Saints now picking 16 and 19. Maybe they'll be in the mix to trade up for a quarterback. Yeah, they just got a pretty big trade with the Saints and the Eagles. The Eagles giving up one of their first-round picks this year for a first-round pick next year. That's something that I think a lot of people sort of saw coming. Not necessarily with the Saints, but I think them trying to acquire 2023 picks based on them wanting to see Jalen Hurts a little bit more and then using some of that ammo to move into next year's draft. So that way, if you have to come up and get a quarterback, you're not like, oh, I spent all 3 first-round picks in 2022 when we could have gone up for a quarterback. So yeah, I like the move for the Eagles specifically because the Saints are kind of an interesting spot. I don't know if they're going to be a good team next year or if they're going to be, not that good and wind up having to get a top 10 pick. I think it's entirely possible. Aaron Honore says Sauce at 4, Jermaine Johnson at 10. This is what I want. This is, if I could script like the first 2 picks for the New York Jets, I really like Jermaine Johnson and I really like Sauce Gardner. Now I understand. I think the way the Jets board is ranked, I think they do have Kayvon Thibodeau ahead of Sauce, and I think it's Sauce, and then I think it's trade down. I don't know if they have Jermaine Johnson as high as some of the other guys. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. Scott V. Schefter tweeted Garrett Wilson also working out today for the New York Jets and Olave. All right, so I'm going to have to change this thumbnail after this and say Treylon Burks, Chris Olave, and Garrett Wilson. So I'll do that. Garrett Wilson, filthy wide receiver. Left out of Chris Sims' top 5, the same as Chris Olave. Fascinating to me. I don't agree with it. Juan says, give me Williams 24/7. Jeez, Jameson Williams is so good. He's so fast. They're saying he might be ready by June. If that's the case, he's wide receiver 1. I'm so concerned about the ACL. I really am. I'm just like, oh no, I don't want to get an injured receiver. We'll see. We'll see. Jared says, Rich Samini was on Jake Asman this morning and said from the things he's heard about Thibodeau, some of which he wouldn't mention, he doesn't expect the Jets to draft Thibodeau. So I said I don't know if it was a few weeks or a week and a half ago, whatever it was. I heard rumors that Thibodeau was not on the Jets board from a pretty reliable, I think, source. But I still want to see how valid this source is before I really start preaching it too hard. It wouldn't shock me. I'm not going to lie. Thibodeau gives me the willies. He really does. But he's so talented. He knows how to stack pass rush moves. I think there is something to the Jets wanting him to slide down a little bit. Man, I have no idea. I don't know how that goes. Wild Wave says the Eagles are smart. Next year is a deep quarterback class. Yeah, and I don't think it makes sense for them to go quarterback right now anyway. They're not really in a great position to go quarterback. I mean, they could trade up for a quarterback this year, but I think all these quarterbacks are not necessarily better than the ceiling that is Jalen Hurts. So see what you have in Hurts for another year, stack another first-round pick, and then move up for a quarterback next year if you really want. Thomas says, like the kid from Arkansas, not a burner, but looks like a constant, reliable go-to wide receiver, second round must if he's available. That's sort of where I think the sweet spot for Treylon Burks is. I've seen Jet fans put him up towards number 10, and I don't agree with that. I don't think he's that high up on my list, but I like the player. I mean, if you want to trade up into the first round to get him, I have no problem with that. I just don't know. I wouldn't want to take him in our top 10 picks. If he's there in the second round, by all means, pull the trigger on him. Philip Allen, do you have Jermaine Johnson higher on your board than Karlaftis? Yes, I do. I have Karlaftis a little bit further down. Not that I dislike him at all. I like, if the Jets want to go with Kayvon Thibodeau, Jermaine Johnson, Trayvon Walker, or George Karlaftis, any one of those 4, I'm totally fine with. Hutchinson too, any of the top 5 guys I have no issues going with. I just really like Jermaine Johnson. I think he's just a well-spoken dude. I don't know enough about Karlaftis from like an interview perspective, the way I have watched videos on Jermaine Johnson. But like I said, I would go either way. I don't think either one is necessarily bad. Ant Jet says his knee is stronger now. His knee is now stronger, Williams. 1972, different story. Yes, I heard there was a different type of approach that they took with the ACL tear. And I don't know if it's specifically him or if this is a new thing they're starting to do, but I guess there's some type of brace inside of the knee that helps the ACL, which probably gives players a whole lot more confidence than like it used to be. Because I feel like players, the mental side of an ACL tear was always just as bad as the physical side. Because doctors could tell you, hey, you are fine all the way around. But for whatever reason, there's no, players seem to come back slower just because of the mental aspect of it. So I agree, Ant Jets. I think it's definitely different than it was. Michael Burgos, also curious to know how you rank your edges. It's tough because there's guys provide different values. Like in my mind, I almost view Hutchinson and Karlaftis like the style of kind of bigger dude edge rushers similar. I put Kayvon Thibodeau and like Walker sort of in more of a bendy style edge rusher class, and then Jermaine Johnson falls somewhere in the middle. I have a hard time picking a top 5, to be honest. I would say I like Hutchinson. I like the talent that is Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't love everything else that might come with him. I really like Jermaine Johnson's attitude, but him moving from the ACC or the SEC to the ACC is a valid concern. I like Karlaftis. I feel like he has a pretty nice body of work as a whole. And then, what was the other one? Walker, Karlaftis, Jermaine Johnson. Did I end it on that? Jermaine Johnson, Walker. Walker is all projection. He didn't have a ton of production in Georgia because they used him as defensive tackle, as an edge. And I do think there's a lot of value there. And he plays similarly, like in that same kind of capacity and versatility as John Franklin Myers. And if you sort of read the tea leaves, the Jets really like their versatility. So I could see them going Trayvon Walker at number 4. But I don't know. It's kind of, how do you like your coffee? There's no real wrong answer. Jets World says, DK saying he hasn't heard anything doesn't mean anything. Wagner didn't know he was being released. Yeah, look, I think the Jets and other teams are calling about DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, and I don't think it's impossible for them to be traded. But I also think those teams want to try and re-sign them as best they can before they wind up going the route of possibly trading. Daniel, thank you so much for the super chat, brother. He says, if Joe Douglas trades for either DK or AJ without giving up our first while acing the draft, I will buy a custom-made Jets Joe Douglas jersey and make it my life goal for him to sign it. I think Joe Douglas, I really do. I think Joe Douglas is the best GM that the Jets have had, definitely since I've been watching football. And I just think every move he makes, the trades, the signings on the waiver wire, there's all these little intricacies that he winds up, hitting on. And look, not every draft is going to be like last year's draft. There's going to be little hiccups along the way, and I think you're probably going to see, somewhere in between the 2020 and 2021 draft as far as quality. Like I'm expecting to be all the way around. But if you can trade for an elite wide receiver, that would be phenomenal. I don't envision a scenario where the Jets get DK without trading a top 10 pick, or at least somehow like maybe they stay in the top 10, they slide back down to number 9, they give up a second round pick, and they get DK Metcalf for the Seattle Seahawks to come up and get Willis or whatever quarterback is their choice. As far as Brown, I don't necessarily. Would I give up number 10 for Brown? I wouldn't want to particularly. DK I would, and that's not to say one's bad versus the other. I like the projection of DK for sure. But I question whether why would the Titans want to come up to number 10? Like, is there someone that they'd be looking to get to facilitate that trade? We'd still have to probably give up another pick. I think the Jets are in business as far as giving up 2 second-round picks and a third for either one of these wide receivers, and I think they're more comfortable with that than giving up a top 10 pick. So I don't know, but yeah, if the Jets can get either one of these guys without giving up a first-round pick, sign me up. Sign me up all damn day. Let's see. Duper Crabber says, London is the best wide receiver, but we might be looking for a smokescreen. There's a lot of people that think Drake London is really good. Now, I heard they are going to push back Drake London's pro day a little bit, and I don't know if that's an injury related thing. He broke his ankle week 8 of the college football season. So if there's still concern health wise, or maybe it's just some sort of scheduling conflict, like maybe another team has a pro day on that day, I'd have to do a little bit more research. But I know there's some people kind of chirping about like, Drake London, we're not going to see him till just before the draft. I don't know if that's a lot of time. I don't know. We'll see. Wild Wave says, I really prefer Trayvon or Johnson over KT. KT seems small. Bleh. KT seems small to me. More like a 3-4 outside linebacker. Your thoughts? I think Kayvon has all the smarts in the world as far as how he stacks his pass rush moves, and I think he can fit either system. I think he's good 3-4, 4-3, no matter what it is. We play a hybrid. Most teams play a hybrid in this capacity. The projection of Walker is probably similar to what you hope Thibodeaux is. Thibodeaux was the number 1 rated recruit coming out of high school, and he's relatively considered, at the very least, a top 10 pick, arguably a top 5 pick all damn day. So the consistency at which he has been able to perform is definitely valuable. Would you like to see more than 7 sacks a year? Sure, but I understand it. I do like Walker. I do like Johnson a lot. Let's see. Daniel Quigley says, I like the Douglas idea. LOL. What number did he wear growing up? That's interesting, right? Like, what number do you pick for a Joe Douglas jersey? There's got to be one. Yeah, maybe you do 00 as like a, not a number. I don't know. I guess you could do like our current year. You could do like 2022, like 22. I don't know. Let me know what you guys would pick for a number for him. Johnny Fallon says, trade with the Saints. Give number 4 for 16 and 18. Draft Johnson at 10, Williams at 16, Burks at 18. Keep your seconds and future picks. Can still trade back in for a linebacker if you wanted. That would be fantastic. That's a huge home run of a trade there. If the Jets look to go back, I do think the Saints, the Steelers, those are the 2 most attractive options. The Saints now owning 2 first-round picks this year is extremely attractive for the New York Jets because I do think there's more value in that 10 to 20 range for us particularly than some other teams. Like I said, I like a lot of the edge rushers. I'm totally fine going edge rusher at 10 and then moving on with, a linebacker, a wide receiver. You're preaching to the choir here. Would love it. Josh Kumbo says, would you rather DK or AJ for 35, 38, and 69, or give up 69 for Cooks? I would take DK or AJ, giving up those 3 picks versus Cooks for 69. Cooks would have to sign a long-term deal if you were to trade for him, and I don't know if he wants to do that. I think he does want to test the free agent market next year. I think that might be a little bit of a hang-up in them trying to trade. Unless I guess he dictates where he goes, then it's maybe a little bit different. But I think DK or AJ, with the connection with AJ or with Elijah Moore, I do think that there is a higher likelihood that those guys re-sign willingly than maybe forcing like a Cooks to sign with us. William Johnson says, coming off an ACL tear 3 months ago myself, Williams is going to be just fine. They focused a lot on aggressive rehab now so that your knee experiences a lot of stress early on to reduce re-injury risk. If you guys haven't seen the video of him doing those like high knees or whatever, it seems like he's moving like pretty quick, and that you're not cutting on it, and that's like the real big thing for the ACL. It's the lateral movement. So we'll have to see where that winds up going. But I think teams giving up a lot of money to Chris Godwin and Michael Gallup this year, both freshly torn ACLs as well, shows that the NFL is not afraid of ACL tears. So I do think George Pickens and Jameson Williams are both going to go high in the draft and be just fine. Pickens, I think his production may limit him a little bit where it's more projection. I think he's closer to a second-round pick. But Williams, it wouldn't shock me if he's the first guy off the board at all. Fresh says, best wide receiver is Burks. He's stronger. His metrics are great. I love the 10-inch hands. I love the size. I do like the speed, even though his 40 time wasn't great. I think his on-tape speed is definitely faster than his track speed. The RAS score is concerning, and it's not I don't want to put a whole lot of emphasis on that because DeAndre Hopkins did not have a great RAS score as well. It's interesting. I think Burks probably goes somewhere in the 20s. That would be my guess. Patrick says, JJ and Williams, sign me up. I'd do it. Jets Gang says, why did they cut Griffin today? Does that mean a move about to be made? No, I think this was Ryan Griffin asking to be released prior to the draft, so that way he has a better shot at signing with another team right now. Otherwise, he'll have to wait till after the draft. Teams may have already drafted a tight end. I think this is kind of a nod towards him right there. If there's any players that the Jets really don't plan on holding on to, you'll see them cut before the draft to try and give them that opportunity. Return of the Jedi, Rusty Spooner says, get Jordan Davis at 10, trade 4, stack, rack, and attack. In Joe Douglas, I trust. Get the best defensive tackle if the best edge isn't there. Need D tackle always. Anyways, I don't want defensive tackle early. Like, I understand them wanting it, but I think we've brought in enough defensive tackles that I'm cool just rotating through them without having to spend a top 2-round pick on one. It's one of those positions that I just didn't want to spend highly on, if I'm being honest. Aaron Honore says, Drake London doesn't get a lot of separation, but his catch radius is crazy. Garrett Wilson is more of a fit for us I believe if we went that route. So Garrett Wilson and Drake London are totally different prospects. You got the contested catch win rate of Drake London with an enormous catch radius, and Garrett Wilson, who can't seem to keep his feet on the ground when he tries to make a catch, which is cool. I mean, it's really neat, but you want to try and catch the ball while you're running. Crisp route running. I think Garrett Wilson reminds me of Odell Beckham, and I think Drake London reminds me of a lighter Mike Evans. So same draft class, which is, oddly enough, but I do like both of them. I wouldn't be upset with either one. Patrick says, JJ is listed as a pure pass rusher, and Williams' rehab is going better than expected. I like Jermaine Johnson. I like Williams. So, yes. Jack says, the Titans have met with Willis and are planning to meet with Corral. They're not sold on Tannehill. I thought they were going to be a dark horse to trade for Aaron Rodgers because of the relationship between Matt LaFleur and Vrabel, obviously his former offensive coordinator. I thought there was a chance he might go over there because the way Ryan Tannehill handled the playoffs, I think he had, 3 interceptions in that final playoff game. They are definitely sour on him. I don't see him being the starting quarterback next year. And I don't know how they facilitate that other than trading for a quarterback. Maybe that's them wanting to come up to 10 or 4. I wouldn't have thought it. Not draft-wise. I thought maybe a trade. I think that team's ready to win. Patrick says, Sauce listed as best player in the draft now. I think he is. It wouldn't shock me. Joe Blewett thinks he's the second best player in the draft. And I think that's behind Hutchinson? I don't know. I could be wrong. I got to talk to Joe again. I don't remember who he had as his top guy. Jets fans stood up for Zach Wilson today with Rich Cimini, just like Zach's offensive lineman stood up for him with Guy. I don't know what that means. Did something happen with Zach Wilson today and Rich Cimini? I did not catch it if it happened. The one thing that frustrated me, the whole boycott the beat thing, was really, I like the beat reporters. We got a lot of good dudes in our beat, and I think the Jets beat is better than a lot of other teams' beat, but I do think they wind up fishing for stories a lot. I guess not unsimilar to what I might do, talking about rumors, things of that nature, but I would not attack a player without some type of reason, I guess. It seemed like there were attacks at Zach Wilson during the season that, didn't seem to fit the way he acts. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Braden says, JD was 79 at Richmond. Perhaps. Maybe that's the jersey you wind up getting. Michael says, if you could double dip on only one wide receiver, edge, in this draft, which one are you going with, edge or wide receiver? I would double dip at edge. And I don't particularly want to double dip at either one of these positions because we do have some depth there, and I do want to see Corey Davis a little bit more, and I do want to see Carl Lawson a little bit more. But edge would be the one I would try to double dip. I'd take one in the top 10, and if you want to take one in the third, No problems there. No questions asked. Who would that be? I'm not entirely sure, but I do think I would err on the side of edge versus wide receiver in this capacity. Legendary says people are talking about best possible scenario for the Jets. I want to know what is the most likely scenario for the Jets and the worst case scenario. My worst case scenario for the Jets is not coming away with an edge rusher in the top 10. How you want to get there? If it's safety at 4 and like Linderbaum at 10, that's my worst case scenario. Like both players, not in the top 10. If you want to take Hamilton at 10, I still don't love that, but I can understand that. If you get either one of those players with an edge, that would mean a lot more to me. But maybe if you go like, I think it's Hamilton and Linderbaum. Two guys that I like that I just don't want to see happen. Most likely scenario, I do think it's edge rusher, and I think it's a trade out. I think at 4 we're going Sauce or edge or trade out, and then if we trade out, it's going to be edge at 10. Sauce is kind of a luxury pick. I mean, we need cornerback help for sure because you only have Reed under contract for probably 2 years. You have Bryce Hall under contract for 2 years. So you can have Sauce as like your main guy and then re-sign Reed or Hall depending on who winds up performing better over the course of the next 2 years. Reed having the inside track for sure. Joe says, really nervous about Burks. Much rather have London. I would have either one. I really don't care. I trust our scouting department more than I do in like the last few years. So I'm not overly gung-ho on one player versus another in terms of edge rush or receiver. That might sound like a cop-out, but I'm like genuine about it. Like I like 8 of the receivers this year, and I would prefer to go like trade in at the back end of the first, beginning of the second. And then edge rusher, I like 5 guys, so I'm cool with taking one at 10. So we'll see. Griffin says, I could see a trade up for Pickens. I really like George Pickens. He's so good. Go watch some highlights on him. The concern on him is that half of his production in his college career came in his freshman year, almost similarly to like Derek Stingley Jr. Like Stingley had a great freshman year and like kind of not so great the next 2 years. So it kind of depends on where you fall on him. Pickens blew up the combine though. Really, really like that. Allen says if the Saints want to get a quarterback, they would have to go up to 4 in draft chart points. So I'm actually not sure what their trade value points look like now. Let's see. Trade value chart. So they own what? Picks 16 and 19 now. Is that right? Or is it 50? I think it's 15 and 19. I thought is what it was. Either way, you're looking at about 1,000 points and 875 points. So that would get you enough points to come up to 4. If they gave up both first-round picks, that does make sense. It's not necessarily an overpay. It might be an overpay by like 50 points, but that's probably well in the wheelhouse for the Jets and Saints if they're looking for a trade-up. Because we've made some deals with the Saints in the past. It's not unreasonable to think that couldn't be something that we're looking to do here. Nathan says, I believe Blewett has Hutchinson number 1. I could understand that. Mudvile says, sup, Jets fans? Ryan, how's your day going? Not too bad. I'm working on my bathroom, actually. I'm renovating the bathroom. I have a hard deadline of before the end of April. Becca's baby shower is at the end of April, and I got to get it done before then. So I was I was wet cutting some tile, trying to place it around, get it all there. I ran out of spacers, so I had to order more spacers for tomorrow. That's the issue with hexagon tile. If you ever do hexagon tile in your bathroom, you got to have enough for spacers on 6 sides instead of just 4. I knew it was going to be an issue. Let's see. Jets World says, not getting Zach a number 1 wide receiver this offseason. Trade or draft would be the worst case scenario. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. I like receiver in the second, so I guess first round for me. I'm not torn up if we don't get one there. Michael says, the Saints making this deal with Philly screams move up for a quarterback. How would you feel if Saints gave us picks 16, 19, and a 2023 second for 4? I would do it all day. No, I would do it right now. I don't care who's there at 4. Doesn't matter to me. I would make that move now. Now, it's not going to happen until draft day, I don't think, because teams are going to have to see if Willis falls past the Lions at 2. My issue is I don't know where the value lies for teams, because if you're the Jets at 4, shouldn't you be worried that the Texans are going to trade out at number 3? And shouldn't you be worried that the Giants might trade out at number 5? They're both ahead of Carolina. And I think there's going to be a lot of like, oh, Carolina might move up. We'll see what's going on. And if Carolina wants to jump up to number 3, what do the Jets do? You kind of have to hope that the quarterback's sitting there at 4, or that the Texans like someone enough to come up and get. Now, I can see it going Hutchinson or Neal or Aquanu number 1. I could see Thibodeau at number 2. I could see Sauce Gardner at number 3, in which case I really like the idea of a trade down. That's probably my worst case trade down scenario. I shouldn't say worst case, but I wouldn't mind moving down at that point. And for this deal, yeah, 100% all day. All day. Let's see. What are you guys talking about in there? John says, Christian Watson had the second highest grade in draft history. Only Megatron did better. You're talking about the RAS score at the Combine. So Chris Sims has Christian Watson as his number 2 wide receiver on his big board. He has Jameson Williams first, Christian Watson 2. Who's 3? 3 was Alec Pierce. 4 was Treylon Burks. And 5 was Drake London, I think. That's higher than I would have put Christian Watson. I think you do have to kind of factor in the level of competition and him not having just insane stats while playing with Trey Lance from last year. So I like him a lot, but I think a lot of him is projection. Let's see. Jose says, Ryan, who would you draft? Oh, who you would draft, Bulldogs or Senior Bowl players, if you had to choose? Both. Absolutely both. Jermaine Johnson was a Bulldog, wound up playing at the Senior Bowl. I do think we're going to get a hefty... I would go Georgia players earlier, and I would go Senior Bowl players later, because I do think we have an inside knowledge on those guys, and guys that might be considered 5th, 6th, 7th round picks might be able to be had for 4th, 5th round picks because we know them. And I do think undrafted free agency is going to benefit the Jets and the Lions for coaching the Senior Bowl, because those guys are already familiar with the coaching staff. So I do think we wind up with a bunch of Senior Bowl players, but I have no problem taking Bulldog players because I really like Nakobe Dean. I really like Trayvon Walker. I like Scene, their safety. I like Pickens, their wide receiver. Like James Cook, their running back. I really like a lot of the Bulldog players. So I could 100% do that. Matthew Smith says, Ryan, let me do your bathroom. I talked about it already. You could have. Maybe. No, we got a quote and it was crazy. And I was like, I'm pretty handy. I feel like I can do it for way less than 26 grand. It's not even a big bathroom. It's like, it's a tub shower, a toilet, and like a, 32 or 36 inch vanity, whatever it is. Crazy. Looney Tunes. I was like, I can do that. Even if I screw up and I have to hire someone to do like other little things, like it's going to cost me way less than that. Brian says, don't want to trade for DK or AJ. Drafting a wide receiver this year would save us picks and $20 million a year. Double down with Williams and Pickens. Davis is going to be cut next year, save $10.5 million. I do think Corey Davis winds up being cut, but I think there was a connection with him and Zach Wilson, and I think it's worth watching this year because maybe he would be willing to restructure his contract and be a little bit cheaper to come back here. DK or AJ, if you bring in AJ Brown, then you have A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Elijah Moore. All three have played together in some capacity. A.J. Brown and Corey Davis in Tennessee with Elijah Moore and A.J. Brown at Ole Miss. And then you're probably, if you're trading for DK or A.J., you're probably talking $30 million a year. But we have the money now. We don't have guys that we're paying a ton of money to. So I'm not opposed to trading for an established wide receiver and not taking the lottery ticket. That is a draft pick. But I'm good either way. I think if you don't trade for one, you gotta draft one. Farhan says, at which round is there a good advantage in coaching the Senior Bowl? Is it smart to trade those mid-round picks? I think the value for Senior Bowl players tends to be later in the draft, like rounds 3 through 7, just because most of the top echelon players are going to be juniors. Just by the nature of the beast, you're going to have guys that are moving up draft boards, or the guys that are coming out of college early because they know they're going to be early picks are juniors. So they tend to go a little bit earlier than some of the Senior Bowl guys. We'll see. Joe says, I like 2 of your 3 picks. Mine would be Jameson Williams, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave. 2 of your 3 picks. I would not take all 3 of them. I'm a little confused. I think you're probably talking about someone else in the chat, and I don't know what it is. Michael says, Saints making a deal with Philly screams move. I already answered that one. Okay, let's see. Lyrical Prophet says, we're going to be here next year doing the same thing. How many drafts do you want to win? We need wins already. Playoffs, a division championship. Yeah, but look at how, depleted our team was from a depth perspective. I do think last year drafting a ton of defensive players with our, rounds 5 through 7 picks, or 4 through 7 picks, whatever it was, the tail end of the draft. I think we're going to see the same thing if we wind up moving back with the offensive side of the ball, try to add some depth there, but we're going to add the high-end defensive players at the early part of this draft. John Doe says, I think Enunwa would have done well in our offense now. Yes, so do I. If he could have stayed healthy, it would have been awesome. I really, really liked Enunwa, and unfortunately, it just did not work out. Patrick says, fixing the defense would really help Zach so he doesn't have to play catch-up. Yeah, they've preached that all offseason. Douglas and Salah have both said, we don't have to necessarily go offense to help Zach Wilson. If he's not playing from behind, I like it. Jets World says, are you going to watch the Generals games? First game is on April 16th. I actually didn't know that. I knew it was coming out again soon. So I'll watch them for sure. April 16th, I'd have to look and see what I'm doing. But if you guys know what time it is, yeah, I'm down to watch it. Maybe we'll do a stream. We'll just hang out and watch it during that. Kind of see how the game plays out this time around. Dupacabra says, Quincy Enunwa was the original Debo. Debo just did it way better. Matthew says, I would do it for $200 a day, but I'm not that experienced. Still think I'd be good at tiling, though. I'm pretty handy, but $200 a day, that's not bad. The guy that I was going to bring in that I know from work, I think does it for $300 a day. And that's not bad because as long as you're not getting upcharged for parts and things like that. I don't know what Becca and I are in on this whole project, but it's way less than what we were originally quoted. Scott says, it's most likely BS, but I saw a report the Jets have a possible deal in place for A.J. Brown if contract talks stall. I think it's probably hearsay. I don't think that there's too much truth to that, but I do think that the Jets are definitely interested in trading for him. Jets Life, or Jet Life. Thank you for the super chat. He says, I just feel next year will be special for us. There's a lot of hope for Jet fans. If Zach Wilson can take a step in the right direction, next offseason, you're going to see a spending spree and a non-Jets tax free agency like you haven't seen before. And it's so huge that Zach Wilson makes that next step. That's why you need to get the wide receiver, and you got to help out the offensive line. We've already helped out the offensive line. Now get that number 1 wide receiver, help out the defense, build this thing the right way. I love it. Shake and bake. Ryan, what's a realistic win-loss record given we have the second hardest schedule in the NFL? I believe I saw Vegas had us at 5.5 wins as the over-under. So figure 2 years ago we were a 2-win team. Last year we were a 4-win team. I would say I'm hoping for 6 to 8 wins, but more so than a win-loss total, I'm hoping that the Jets end up in the hunt in December for the playoffs. I want to be competitive. I don't want to see this this team win a few meaningless games down the road. I want to see wins when they matter early in the season, keep morale high, and at least keep fighting for a position potentially in the playoffs, even if you don't wind up making it. Scott V. No, so $26,000 was for my entire bathroom to get redone, not just the tile. We paid whatever to buy the tile, and then I'm just laying it down. But yeah, that's crazy. I just tiled a 3,500 square foot house. For the materials were a little bit more than $26,000. Most of the floor is heated. That's really cool. Our main like primary bathroom, I would love to heat the floor when I eventually redo that one. But yeah, look. Worst case scenario, I screw stuff up and then I just learn how to fix it via YouTube. Juan says, Ryan, whatever happened to our beloved player Daniel Falele? He doesn't fit this system, unfortunately, and he's just kind of a big, slow dude. I like him, but he's not. I liked him prior to us hiring Robert Saleh. This offense that we run with LaFleur is just not super conducive to that type of size. Mike says, Joe Douglas and Coach Saleh continue to repeat themselves about drafting for the trenches. Wide receiver would be a secondary issue. Don't be surprised if you see Linderbaum in the first round. I don't mind Linderbaum in a trade down scenario. If you wind up trading down to the Saints and you have, say, picks 10, 16, 19, then maybe you go edge rusher 10, 16. I don't think Linderbaum's going to be there. I think he winds up going to the Ravens at 14. But if he falls and you want to take him there, or you want to take the receiver and then maybe take him at pick 19, I'm cool with that. I just don't want to take him inside of the top 10. Sean says, if you're going to trade 2 high picks for an established wide receiver, then pay him $25 to $30 million, then you might as well double dip at the position with the extra picks instead. My concern isn't the talent of wide receiver in the draft. It's the established wide receiver that you might have to go through growing pains with. So if you're drafting a receiver, maybe you don't get the opportunity to grade Zach Wilson the way you really want to, because Elijah Moore took about half a season to kind of get his feet under him. Michael Carter sort of similarly, where you bring in DK, AJ Brown, Debo, someone like that, and it's an immediate like, hey, I know the NFL, I know how to do a lot of this stuff already, and you're grading Wilson from day one. But I'm good either way. Look, I could go either direction here. Let's see. I saw my buddy in here. Oh, look at Banges go. What's up, dude? Ryan, when are we hanging out and brewing some more homemade beer? We got to do that soon. I got some homemade stuff. That sounds weird. But I got something else I want to show you too at some point. But yeah, dude, we got to make some beer. I should try to get like a beer sponsorship. If you guys haven't watched my live streams on Mondays, I have this like secondary camera that'll flip between. Perfect for product placement. We'll see. Nick H says, why can't we get our logo in the middle of the field like every other NFL team? Because we share a stadium. I think. I would assume that's why. It's just easier to change out the end zones than both. Michael says, how about Sauce at 4, Jermaine Johnson at 10, then trade back into the first to pick 20 for Jameson Williams by giving the Steelers 35 and 69? Yes, 100% yes. I like Sauce. I like Jermaine Johnson. No questions asked. If you wind up keeping both top 10 picks, trade up into the first to go get a wide receiver. No problems there whatsoever. Joe, thank you for the super chat, says, Rhino, good show as usual. Thoughts on Deontay Johnson, Steelers number 20 and a late rounder, and a first next year for number 4. I wouldn't hate that. Deontay Johnson is almost similar to like that A.J. Brown shifty receiver, where Claypool is probably closer to like the height Drake London jump ball kind of receiver. So if there's any truth to the Jets possibly wanting to go after Mike Williams and liking Drake London possibly, then maybe Claypool is a little more attractive. But I'm good with either one. I don't care. But I do like the trade down. I would probably go for more. I would get their top, get your receiver, get number 20, get at least a first next year. And then I'm looking for a few more picks because, look, you got to sweeten the deal. You're coming up for a quarterback, buddy. Let's see. Muttvile says, if Stingley and Hamilton fall, would you be upset with taking them? At 10 or in a trade down? Because I don't love it. and by it I mean both. Like there's situations I would take either one. If the medicals check out and the Jets are fine with it, look, Stingley has a ton of talent. Hamilton, everything's there. So I don't know. Talking Jets with Tigo says, this double dip narrative doesn't make sense. You can only put 3 guys on the field at the same time. We took 2 tight ends and in free agency. Like, whose snaps are you taking away? Yes, that's kind of what I'm saying. I don't agree with double dipping at wide receiver. It just doesn't seem to fit the narrative. If you wanted to trade a 5th round pick for Amari Cooper and then draft your receiver, that double dip makes sense. I don't like the idea of double dipping in the first round because, like you just said, you have both tight ends that are going to be getting a lion's share of action. You got Michael Carter, you've got Corey Davis, you've got Elijah Moore, and you're going to develop plays for Braxton Berrios. So that's 6 guys. Why would you draft 2 more? I think just 1 is fine. 1 will do you. You don't need 2 there. Ooh, Shake and Bake says, what's your dream scenario for picks 4, 10, 35, and 38, Ryan? Dream scenario, Sauce at 4, Jermaine Johnson 10, a wide receiver at 35 and a safety at 38. If you're not moving picks around. But I would give up picks to go back into the first to get a receiver we want, because I do think you have to jump in front of the Chiefs and you probably have to jump in front of the Packers because they just traded away their top wide receiver options and they're at the tail end of the first. So jump up a little bit ahead of them to make that move. I would have no problems there. All right. So that was a lot of fun. Quick little stream. I have my call-in show tonight, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We're going to be hearing all your thoughts. I'm going to do a 3-minute timer. Man, I keep forgetting. This is what happens. When you get old enough, you wind up having temporary tattoos from a 2-year-old's birthday party that you still can't get off your hands. Yeah, call-in show later on tonight. 3 minutes a call. We're going to blow through some calls. I believe what's the topic tonight? I don't even remember what the topic tonight is. Go look at the thumbnail. Whatever that topic is, that's what we're going to be talking about. All right, boys, it's been a lot of fun. This is Jets Talk signing off. Jets! Jets!